Hello and welcome to the Wakefield School Committee meeting of Tuesday, January 21st. We're opening our regular session. We'll begin our meeting as we always do with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving on, we will be reading our mission statement. The vision of the Wakefield Public Schools is to graduate students who are confident, lifelong learners, who are respectful and caring members of their community. Our mission is to prepare students for college, career, and community by providing a rich and challenging curriculum, high-quality instruction, and educational experiences that meet their individual needs and interests. At this point, we would be open for public comment if there's anyone in studio or online. No? Seeing none. I think, do we have anyone from our youth advisory on? Oh, Ahmed, you're right here.
Yes, we just have a couple of quick updates about the high school. We'll start with some athletics. The boys swim team had a big meet against Triton where they won in a close margin. I think it was last Wednesday. The track team won state relays this past Sunday. Acapella and Voices of Steel just came back from Tennessee where they were competing, and students enjoyed that experience. Wrestling went 3-0 as a team in a quad meet this past Saturday. Girls basketball is currently playing in the gym. And then in terms of academics, term 2 ends this Friday, so teachers advise that students get in any late or missing work by then. That's all.
Brilliant. Thank you. Any questions?
Nicely done.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you. Moving on, I believe we have a consent agenda.
Move that the school committee accept the minutes of the September 24th, 2024 school committee meeting and the October 15th, 2024 school committee meeting as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Thank you. And Eileen?
Yes.
Are you? Okay, thank you. Moving on from that, I believe we have budget items, and Ms. Bufagna could not be with us, but she did leave us with a motion for a gift to the district.
We have two of them. The first one, move that the school committee accept with gratitude the donation of $3,000 from the Wakefield girls basketball for coaches' stipends.
Second.
Brilliant. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? And Ms. Collering?
Yes again from me.
Thank you.
And the second one, move that the school committee accept with gratitude the donation of $2,080 from the Wakefield Parent Partnership for Parent University Program in March 2025.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? No? And seeing none, those in favor? Ms. Collering?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Thank you so
I'm
much.
going to make it fun every time.
I know. You're doing a good job. Thank you. All right. Moving on, we would have...
Steven, I'm sorry. There was a typo. I'm just going to correct it. Hold on. Let me look again here. It says...
Was it 2030?
Well, it says 2030 in there. I just want to double check here. I'm looking at the actual checks. Okay. You want to take a... Oh, there's multiple checks here? Maybe that's what... I don't know. Do you want to take a quick peek here?
I believe the one for Parent University may have been 2030.
Okay,
It
so I'm going to
is, yeah.
just correct my prior motion. I don't know if we need to re-vote again. It's 2030, because...
Yeah.
That says 2030, but the motion said 80.
You can amend.
Okay, I'm going to amend my prior motion for the amount of $2,030 for Wakefield Parent University from the Wakefield Parent Partnership.
Okay. Those in favor? All right. Eileen, you get another stab at it.
Heck yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Item number 7 would be superintendent's remarks. I would just say under chair's comments, which should be item number 8, was going to include an update on the middle school production, but I believe, Dr. Lyons, you can take that under your superintendent remarks.
Great, and if, with your permission, I'd like to take my agenda items out of order, and we can start off with the middle school production update. Frozen Junior. Some celebrities here in studio.
Hello, my name is Allie. I play Elsa in Frozen Junior. I love performing in Frozen at the GMS Drama because it is a great outlet to be myself and share my interests with others. The GMS Drama has created an amazing opportunity for myself and others to enjoy themselves. It's truly an amazing bond we have, and it's amazing to share with all these people.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Fiona Bird. I play Queen Aduna in Frozen Junior, and Drama Club has really been a place that I can, feel accepted and welcomed by my peers, and it's been a really fun experience for the past 3 years for me.
That's brilliant.
Hi, I'm Luke. I play Kristoff in Frozen Junior. It's just such a great opportunity to be in the show and just express your acting ability. It's such a great environment for everybody who's in it. We can all agree with that.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ryan, and I play Olaf in the Frozen Junior production. It's really a magical place for me because this is my first year, and I've loved drama, and I think it's been a very nice experience with Miss Nup and all of us.
That's awesome.
Good job.
Hi, my name is Kira. I play Anna in Frozen, and it's just a great environment, and all of the teachers and directors and dance captains are very supportive of our abilities and how we can make the best show possible.
Hi, my name is Nora Pritchard. I play young Elsa in the Frozen Junior production. It's just so many words to explain it, but mostly everybody's just so nice, and if you have any problem, there's always somebody that can help you, and that's really comforting too. If it's your first year, third year, or whatever you need, people are just there to help you.
Great.
Hi, I'm Callie Spry, and I'm playing Middle Anna, and it's just a magical place, and the teachers are always so supportive, and so are the cast, and it's just an amazing thing to do.
Hi, my name's Stella. I play young Anna in our Frozen Junior production, and it's a fun way to make friends while telling a story with magical elements.
Wow.
That's great.
Hi, I'm Needy. I play Pabby in our production of Frozen Junior, and I love to perform with our system because I get to be myself, and I get a chance to do what I love. And drama has created a special environment for me to make new friends and have a family school-wide.
Nice.
That's
Hi,
great.
I'm Elton Nupp. I'm the director of Frozen. This is just a small sampling of our cast and crew. We have over 120 in this production involved in either on the stage or behind the scenes. They're all awesome, and we hope that you'll come see the show January 23rd to 26th. Tickets online. So, thank you. And at the door, 100%. So, thank you.
I think you'll see some of us on the 23rd. Thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
So of your cast, of all of you, so for how many of you is this your first year doing theater? That's great. And how many is it your second year? Ooh, third year? There you go. That's the sweet spot. And fourth? Do you have any eighth graders? Oh,
So
but
those
maybe
grade, when they were in fifth grade, they were not part of the
Right.
productions.
Got it. Okay, very good. Well, putting yourselves out there as much as you do, in front of your community, it's so brilliant. And I know a lot of people enjoy the productions that get put on, so really looking forward to it. So break a leg, as they say. And thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to
Thanks for
seeing
sharing
you.
tonight.
Thank
Nicely
you.
done.
Coming tonight.
Okay, we can end the meeting.
Yeah.
How do you top that?
It doesn't get any better, so.
I know.
We might be able to
Yeah,
give, you
wow.
know? Next up, I'd like to invite Anthony and Michael to come up and talk about senior privileges. Along with Principal McLeod. Evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, I'm Anthony,
I'm Michael.
and so we had our civic action project to do this year as our junior year, which Michael will tell you a little bit about.
This project aims to make change in the community and promote civic engagement, problem solving, and critical thinking. It teaches us as students how to actively participate and make a positive improvement in our community.
So then we took that assignment and we chose to do the theme of open campus at the Wakefield High School, and we chose that because the goal basically is to have ASC first or last, to be able to leave or come in late, and we chose that basically because I was in ASC last block on a Friday and I didn't want to be there, so the next Monday Miss Lopez introduced the project and I was like, okay, Michael, I think I know what I want to do, and he was
Anthony,
on board with it.
If you prepared slides, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you need to switch the slides, you can just say switch slides.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
And so advance the slide, and I think they can do that for you.
I think
Perfect.
he's got the clicker.
Or you have the clicker right there.
Oh, okay.
Even
Perfect.
better.
Yeah, I think we're ready to go to the next slide anyways. So we had 5 steps, or technically 6 actually, to accomplish this goal.
First, we talked to the admin about why we don't have this yet.
Then we sent out over 40 emails, I think, to different administrators at other schools in Massachusetts.
We sent a survey to get the opinions of students at our high school.
And then we took all that information and just gathered it all into a nice little Google sheet and made it look nice.
We created a slideshow and presented it to our administration at the school.
And now we're here with you guys at the school committee meeting.
Nice.
So we talked to the student body. We sent out a survey to all 11th and 12th graders, and 57 responded. On the survey, we asked them their thoughts and opinions on open campus. We also had the students think about the pros and cons, and more specifically the cons, because we know with everything there are pros and cons, but the cons are probably more important because you need to think about both sides. And the graph on the right shows the percentage of 11th and 12th graders. We had 55.8% were 12th graders and 42.2% were 11th graders.
We also sent emails to other schools, almost 40 of them, or above 40 of them, to principals and vice principals all over the state. We focused more on the Middlesex League, and then we expanded to other parts of the state. We also asked if the students thought it would be a good thing at high school, where only 3 students answered that it would be a bad idea, and where 49 said it was going to be a good idea.
The next thing that we asked them was the pros and cons. To start with the cons, some people said that it was since the school was under construction, it might be harder for students to find parking. We sent the survey out in October, so the parking lot wasn't open yet back then. Students who take the bus would have to stay and not be able to leave or come in late. Some students may have a hard time focusing at home with more distractions. Safety concerns, and students with ASC D block wouldn't get the privilege of leaving because they have the ASC at the same time every day and it's in the middle of the day.
Some of the pros, you can use your time better. Sometimes ASC time isn't used up to its potential, so you could use your time better to go home and get some rest if you need it, or if you sleep in, you need some extra sleep, you can do that. It would reduce traffic in the beginning and end of the day. I think that if some students are coming in late or leaving early, it would be it would be
drop off and pick up a lot easier.
So why the pros outweigh the cons? Basically because a few cons give reasons why kids may want to stay in school instead of going home. It doesn't have to be a mandatory thing. If a kid wants to stay in their ASC, they don't have to leave because it's just an option. The kids aren't being the kids will have another space to go if they don't want to leave. And we think that it's important for the kids that do want to leave because they have they focus better at home, or they have other things to do that they can only do at home, or they want to get more sleep so that they're ready for their afternoon more, or they're ready or they just can come into school better with more sleep. I think that would just be very beneficial to for the students at the high school to be able to have that option.
There are a handful of schools in the Middlesex League that do this. Arlington, Belmont, Lexington, Reading, Watertown, Winchester, and Woburn are all in the Middlesex League and have an open campus or a senior privilege policy.
Some sort, one or the other.
Yeah.
Why is it better to do this?
Student happiness. We think that is a big one.
Students can get more sleep.
Students can improve their use of their free time.
Students don't have to waste time in school when they could be at home.
Teachers could have more time in their days.
And it could reduce morning and afternoon traffic.
Now here is a link to our privilege.
Which you also have in your packets.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having us. I think Ms. McLeod will talk about the privilege more in depth. I think.
So I will talk about what they brought to us, but I thought maybe you want to ask questions first.
I had a question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
The how many seniors would currently benefit from either the morning or last block approximately?
I actually don't know that number because not all students who have that first or last block may qualify based on what we talked about and what we put in to sort of a privilege situation. However, I can tell you that in any given block, if you look at 7 blocks and we have 250 or so seniors and you break that down by block, you know, it'll be about 1/7 of the seniors who could potentially have an ASC. It doesn't break out that evenly, but it's pretty close to at any given block. That would be how many would qualify, and then the other criteria and requirements in the policy would make it even less than that.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. Maybe the first one for Anthony and Michael. I noticed on the slide you had mentioned open campus, yet this is being dubbed just a senior privilege. Can you talk about what the difference is maybe there? Because you said some schools do one, some schools do another.
So open campus is more like leave whenever you want, but this would only be first and last. At first when we brought the idea, we didn't really have a set when it would happen, when it wouldn't happen. But after talking with Ms. McLeod and Mr. Mulaney and Ms. Shafakante, we narrowed down on the first and the last block of the day.
And an ASC for older people is a study hall, is what we would have called it. Is that ultimately the same, or does it have a different tenor nowadays than what I had done?
Yes, I mean I would say that it's a souped up study hall. It's an academic support center. It is run by a teacher. It is opportunities there for a teacher to provide students in that study hall with support if they need it. There is opportunities for students to go to other teachers' rooms at that time if a teacher's available to support them. They can also use the library. They can use the makerspace. So it is a little bit more focused than just a generalized study hall. But yes, for people who had study hall back in the day, it runs similarly in that if you have a free period, if you have a free period, that's when your ASC would be.
And then my only other question, and it might be for either of you guys, time on learning, does this at all figure into time on learning? Does an ASC, and if it does, I mean, other schools do it, so it can't be too much of an issue. Does it impact a student's time on learning if they're not actually there?
Right.
Yeah, I don't believe it does, but we can certainly check with the Department of Ed, right?
So my understanding from the other schools that do it is that your time on learning is based on your footprint of the day and when your academic day is offered to students. There are schools that have all kinds of reasons why students may not fulfill that full academic footprint. It could be an internship.
Yeah.
It could be if schools have VHS where the students are learning at home. Our VHS happens to be in school, but others have remote learning that students can go home and learn. Study hall, is a time that it's free learning for kids, so it's not necessarily instructional time. However, it's still within the footprint of the day. I don't believe it would put us out of compliance in any way because it wouldn't change the footprint of our academic day.
Okay, great. And then just lastly, just comment, you did a great job. So good work, researching this and providing it, and you did a great job presenting. So thanks
Thank
for
you.
bringing this forward.
Thank you.
So I have a question, and it's less about the privilege and more about your data. I was just curious if the 3 students who said no had anything in common, or if their reasons why they said no were similar. If in your survey,
It was like anonymous, like the survey results kind of just got like all jumbled up, like
so you didn't see the comments necessarily from
no,
those two?
no,
Okay.
because like all kinds like got jumbled up into like one thing. Because we did anonymous, hoping that students would be like more honest.
Great, thanks.
I was curious if, was there a con that maybe you hadn't thought of, sort of that caught you by surprise?
Let's consult the data.
Maybe like the after school activities ones, because I don't really have any. Like, I don't do any sports really except for marching band, so I didn't really think about that one.
Okay.
Other than that, not really.
I was wondering, in the cons, there's a portion about, I think about, what if there was a student that qualified for this but didn't have transportation or did not live close? Would there be like an equity issue where, some students would be able to take advantage of this privilege and some, even though they may qualify, sort of wouldn't have a choice, but to stay behind? Did you talk about that with sort of any of your peers, or?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think we like talked about that, but it was one of the cons that we had, like the students who like take the bus or that like live far away. But I feel like the majority of seniors do have their license. I don't know exactly how many, but I think probably a good amount of them do. But I'm not 100% sure.
ASC D block students that have ASC D block won't be able to have this privilege because
Sure.
right now I have ASC D block, so if I was a senior, I wouldn't be able to get it. But I hadn't crossed my mind.
I do want to point out that both Anthony and Michael are not seniors, so they're not
Yeah.
going to benefit from this policy right away, which I thought was commendable because they were thinking sort of the school at large and not asking for this to be a privilege for all years. They were really focusing on it as something that students would earn as a privilege as seniors, and so something that they wanted to sort of get going this year as quickly as we could, even though that they wouldn't benefit from it right away. I do think that the equity piece, though, is something that we've talked about administratively to think about a little bit. And I'm not necessarily sure that we, we're thinking of a sign-off where parents are giving permission, where students leave, seniors, juniors, even sophomores and freshmen leave the school every day with other students who may have, who are leaving the school at the same time. So that may happen with a senior privilege option. 2 seniors may come in together. 2 seniors who both have the privilege may leave together. So I don't think it completely takes it off the table necessarily. I'm thinking particularly of our Boston students who are sort of, locked here in terms of where their busing takes them. But I think that if they both had the privilege and the parents gave them permission, we could work around those inequities a little bit, just as long as we're mindful of them.
Yeah. I did go ahead in the packet, clicked on the link to the new privilege, and it did seem to be a very sort of thought out policy. I'm curious how you two sort of, was it meeting with administration at the high school to help craft it, or how did that document come to sort of exist?
The administration made the document and sent it to us, and we looked it over, and we helped make any changes that we thought might benefit the privilege.
Yeah, we had like a meeting with we made like a whole Google Doc and like had a bunch of comments, and we just like went over everything that me and Michael thought about, and we had a good meeting about it, and that's how that document came to be.
It looks very good. It looks like something that would have come out of our policy subcommittee. So I was very impressed with it. It looked like you already had all of your sort of T's crossed and I's dotted.
Yeah,
So
that
but
was
you would-
mostly them.
Yeah, yeah. But you would say that, does the document hold truth to like what you were proposing? Does it sort of
I mean, that was
live
the
up to what
important
your
part, right?
Yeah.
what your expectations
Yeah,
were?
yeah, it definitely does.
Good.
And I don't, and we didn't really reinvent the wheel. I mean, the fact that they brought us, 6 schools locally who are doing this, you might find that our document looks very similar to maybe some other schools in the area that do something very similar, right? So we were able to work on that together, give them a draft of it that really kind of had Wakefield and our times and our stamp based on what we had talked about at the beginning of end of day. And then they actually came up with some great questions that we hadn't thought about. So it was nice to have that give and take, right? When we shared that document with you and then we sat down again, some of the questions that you thought about, we were like, oh, right, we never thought about this from a student perspective. So it was really great to be able to refine that document and know that when it goes out to students, it's already have sort of a student stamp of, or a student perspective is already built into it.
No, it seemed like enabling, but at the same time had an appropriate number of sort of safeguards in there. That was very clear that it is a privilege, but that can be earned. So, Dr. Lyons.
Can you share a little bit more about the link for the viewing public that might not know the particulars or might not have been able to click on the link?
Sure. What Anthony and Michael talked about is basically the concept of that if students have an ASC at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, and then they meet a certain other number of requirements that I think are important to make it a privilege. One of those is that a student's grades currently must reflect a 75 or higher in all of their classes, a C or higher. And we went back and forth with that number a little bit. That was a good discussion, right? We talked about should it be higher, should it be lower, what does that look like? They also must be in good behavioral standing, so no outstanding Saturdays, nothing on their behavioral record. And we're sort of looking at the following quarter. So we're just finishing a quarter now, so our hope is that we can move this forward, introduce this to seniors soon, and have it start happening at the start of the next marking period in the next couple of weeks, so that they have that, they can use that privilege for that marking period. And then the document also lays out some real specifics, because they had lots of great questions about, like, do we go through the office? Do we just leave? Like, what does the note look like from, do we need permission? Do we need to get this signed off on? So there's a lot of specifics about that. I think you guys even pointed out, what about advisory days? I mean, you really thought of everything. So we added in, like, when we have those extended advisories, what does that mean? What do early release days look like? So just a lot of the specifics about what that would look like day to day for a student who has that privilege. Yeah.
I appreciate all the work both of you put into this and all of your research. As you and I had discussed, Anthony, earlier on, open campus is something I look back very fondly on during my time in high school. You know, back then the times were different, but we could leave for lunch. We could leave in the middle of the day and come back as long as we were there for our classes. And I realize these days where schools are more locked down, that's much more difficult to do that. You know, one thing that I would wonder is, you know, if we had this, is there anything we've done scheduling to have more seniors have their beginning period or last period be their ASC period that would enable more to take advantage of it? Because the thing that would, you know, be a little bit unfair would be you have some seniors who have the A period and some that have the end, but then you've got all the people stuck in the middle that wouldn't get to benefit in the same way. But I will say I'm definitely in favor of opening up this opportunity. But I would like to see if we can do anything in scheduling in the future to give more seniors either the beginning or last period for ASC so they could be beneficiaries of it if they meet the other criteria.
Yeah. You know, very difficult to do with the schedule, especially given the number, which we're going to talk about tonight, given the program of studies and the wide range of courses that we offer, the fact that many of our courses at the upper levels are multi-leveled. You know, AP courses, many of them are one-offs. We try to have them not conflict, because then if they conflict, then kids have to make choices, and then, you know, folks don't like that either. So it's kind of difficult to do, but I will say the one thing that we have talked about is kind of seeing how this goes for this year, and see how well seniors can handle the responsibility of beginning of the day, end of the day, and then maybe extending the conversation to middle of the day to D block. So if a student did have D block, lunch is not long enough to leave, because our lunch periods aren't as long as they used to be back in the day because of time on learning. I remember a very long lunch when I was in high school. So it makes it difficult, but you know, we had talked about, and since they're going to be here next year, kind of revisiting this together and seeing where we are, and could we extend this to D block in the middle of the day as well.
Great. Melissa?
I was just curious why you decided if a student has two ASCs, they can only take advantage of this in one of them.
Well, part of it is that we're not encouraging students to have two ASCs. We're trying to get our seniors to be fully scheduled up until the end. And so what we are afraid of is that the sort of carrot of having 2 extra periods may dissuade us from taking an elective when we really want our students to be fully scheduled. You know, again, time on learning, we want our students to be in school learning as much as possible. I don't think at this point we think it's necessary for a student to be out for 2 periods a day. In my estimation of the schedule, we have enough courses that we should have our students fully scheduled as much as possible, even though they don't want to hear this as a mom of a senior, up to the very end. And that could be with fun electives, interesting electives, unique electives. But I think, you know, if we do 2 periods a day, then it's an incentive in the direction that we don't want to go in.
Does almost every senior have an ASC?
They have to
Because of gym, yeah, because of wellness. So at least a couple days a week, yes.
Yeah.
Though some have extra keys and they have music, but there's few and far between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the gym.
Is the decision on this to the school committee, or is this a high school decision? Who gets to make the decision on this?
School day rests with the school committee,
Okay.
right? So,
Any other questions?
I'm wondering if we try this, if we can hear back at a later date about how this is going. And I think your comments, Amy, about how this might expand or how we might address different students, if we get an update at a later date, maybe in the spring, if we were to pilot this,
Sure.
and then hear back about maybe expanding or continuing. That would be more of a dynamic situation where the school committee would be informed real time.
Yeah, what I'd like to maybe see is if we could have a motion to maybe put this on our table, as if it were a policy that had come out of policy and communications. We'll leave it for consideration for a couple of weeks. Leave it open for comment, like we would do standard. I'll say it again, like, I'm very impressed with how you presented yourself. This is a good proposal. I think we can treat it as if it had just come out of sort of school committee. And so we'll lay it on the table, which is our normal practice up until our next meeting. And then, barring any edits, we could maybe take a vote on it.
Sure.
And we could see it in,
This would exist in our handbook if
Yep.
it were to go forward, right? But the timing is off.
Yeah.
Because we do handbook in the summer, and we're doing this now so that we can, as you said, kind of see
Yeah.
how it goes.
and we could also see like where it would live within our policy book.
Right. So I wonder, would it sit in the policy book, or would it just be part of the high school program, not program of
Part of
studies, high school
handbook.
handbook?
Yeah.
Handbook.
Right, not necessarily a school committee policy, because
Right.
they were looking at it as a senior privilege, which we've had in the past, but they've been unwritten. They've been sort of senior privileges that existed without policies prior to me. So we were trying to codify something to get it in our handbook so that we were very clear about what the privileges were for seniors and how that would work in terms of the criteria. Just a thought. It's just a thought. Certainly, that idea of having it sit there
Sure.
and think on it, yes.
I'd like to leave it open for comment for folks that sort of hadn't had a chance to
Sure.
sort of digest it for a little bit.
Yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely.
My question is on timing, though. Our next meeting, I think, is second week of February.
Mhm.
Does that get in the way of when you were looking to start this? Because I think it does. If we want to leave it on the table, they were hoping to start it at the next term, and this would get in the way of them being able to do that.
I think it'd be a week later. I think you already have the data and you have an idea of the students that this would encapsulate. And the question would just be can we go ahead and let them know that they can do that?
Yeah, it's a little simplified as to what
Right.
it's like, sure.
We'd have
I
to
do
get
not mean to I do
Things
not
were
mean to
only that easy, but-
oversimplify, no. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know what the criteria is.
Mhm.
Like, those buckets can already sort of be arranged. You would already know who would sort of fall into that.
Yes, with the understanding that we're going to have a class meeting to talk about this with the entire class, because it's not a quiet privilege. It's this idea that
Yeah.
we want kids to, right. So, I mean, my understanding of what Pete's saying is that we could kind of go ahead and start that foundational work,
Mhm.
and then wait to hear back from you as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we could do that. Any discussion, Tom?
Is the expectation or the recommendation that this be a trial through the end of this year? Or is the recommendation that it be a permanent ad?
My recommendation that it would become part of the high school handbook, and the expectation and the privileges that exist for our kids in the building. So we outline a lot of our things in our handbook. I'd like to see it sit in that. I think we could always pull back on that because we revised the handbook in the summer. So if we were to try this and we found that it wasn't working for some reason, but again, I love that idea of we can work on pulling some data, maybe some more surveying. We could always go in the other direction, but for right now, the handbook's not redone right now anyway. So that would be my recommendation moving forward, but maybe not, immediately, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, my personal feedback is I don't want to get in the way of them moving forward to start this coming up in the next semester, whatever it's referred to as. Given it's not a school committee policy and it's is in the handbook, my personal preference would be to allow them to continue with their trial through the end of this year. We get an update at the end of the year. We let Ms. McLeod, this is under her purview to do this with some guidance from us, and then we can make a decision for next year based on the feedback. That'd be my 2 cents. I just don't think there's a lot of value of letting it sit around and not be able to start it at the beginning of the next semester.
Melissa?
I think, as much as I would like to see it start the next semester, I thought the next semester starts on...
Monday?
I thought it started on the 28th.
Starts Monday.
Starts Monday, okay.
Term ends Friday.
Okay.
So this would be like starting the process of having a class meeting, talking to seniors about what this is, getting the information out there, gathering permission slips, figuring out when their ASC, so it's not going to start Monday.
Did you guys get feedback from CPAC or from any of the special education educators or any teachers?
No, we did not. We shared it with...
Yes.
We shared it with NEASC.
Okay.
You want to talk about your NEASC presentation?
Yeah, it was I actually really enjoyed that. Like, we were selected by Ms. Lopez, our history teacher, to go down and present, and I think it was a really rewarding experience because they asked us a lot of questions and they challenged us to think differently about the idea, and some of them that had it at whether they work at a school that has it or they had it when they were in high school gave us a lot of good opinions, and I think it added a lot of good value to our project.
Mm-hmm. It was discussed with the ILT so that our leaders had a sense of where this was going because it would impact teachers by having them have less students in their study halls, their ASCs. On some levels it also solves a problem that we sometimes have with too many kids, too many students in ASCs at the same time. So it's a little bit of a problem solver as well. It has been discussed, but not with extensive feedback, no.
How would this work if there was a student who needed supports during ASC but wanted to be off campus?
So they wouldn't need supports during their ASC if you're talking about a special education student. Mm-hmm. So they would get their supports during their LSC.
Okay.
And we would ensure that their time, their scheduled time for their LSC supports, that's different than their ASCs.
Okay. All right.
Those are scheduled.
So it's a little different than when?
What's that?
It's a little different than the model at the middle school.
Very different than the model at the middle school. This isn't a win block.
Okay.
This is an academic, a study hall block. Students with special education plans who need services dictated so many times per week. That's created in an LSC with a special educator. That would not be touched. Academic classes would not be touched.
Yeah, I hear academic support center, and that's kind of what what I thought of. But yeah, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate
worries,
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be the expectation that this begin Monday?
Nope.
So sort of the rollout, so you don't actually have a day one in mind? It'd be, or do you?
No, the day one would probably, the day one of starting to implement it would be the rollout, which would be starting next week. But I think it would take probably at least, that week, the following week to get permission slips back to start it that next week, which I don't have a calendar in front of me and I'm terribly calendar challenged. So it would be sort of 2 weeks from Monday.
3 weeks.
What's that?
You're talking, it would be 3 weeks. It would happen in the third week.
It would happen in the third Monday, yes. The same thing, yeah. Right. So it is that same time frame of the beginning of February-ish.
Which is the 10th, which is still before the next meeting on the 11th.
Yeah.
Would be your ideal.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I'd still like to leave it open for discussion. I don't think it should preclude the work that
Right.
you already mentioned from
agree.
starting. But I'd like to, I'm curious to get feedback from parents and sort of, I like the idea, but I want to make sure that we're hearing all of the voices that are sort of having relevant pieces to this, because there are some questions to it, but I think for some students, I think it's an exciting idea of a privilege. I think even at this table, we've had some interesting discussion, things like I wouldn't necessarily favor free time in favor of academics and working out scheduling blocks and whatnot, but but I think it's been a very conscious structure put forth to this, and so I commend you guys for the work and for partnering well and putting it together. So I think we'll take a look at it. I'd like to save the sort of yes vote for our next meeting, if that's okay, and then and just wish you good luck in sort of a rollout, and hopefully you meet like smooth sailing. Pete.
Just for clarification, are we okay with Ms. McLeod continuing her process with the expectation that it will require approval of school committee on the 11th to say yes? That way she can keep the ball rolling and doesn't have to wait to start that until the 11th?
I am okay with that. If anybody else has Eileen, are you hearing all this?
I am, yes, I'm here.
Did you have any questions? Because, I haven't gotten a chance to see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, sorry. I was just picking up my daughter from theater.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, no, the only question that I have that is what Melissa just asked about, if like CPAC has been, I understand that it wouldn't interfere with any special education or anything like that, but just more of, how it would affect any kids in the school. That was my question, but I heard Melissa ask that, so. I don't think I have anything else, really. I think it's a cool idea. I remember being a senior and having academic support at the end of the day, so that would have been a really cool privilege to have. So, way back long time ago. But it's a neat idea. I like it.
Good. Any other thoughts? Points? No?
I'd like to thank the students, Michael, Anthony, nice job.
Absolutely.
And you think
Yeah,
about
very good.
affecting change and kind of working and collaborating. Nicely done. And the suits don't hurt either.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nicely done, gentlemen.
Thank
Really
you.
nice job. And Ms. McLeod, thank you for supporting them to bring this forward. And we look forward to continue to working with you on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye, Katie. We are. They're leaving, you're staying. I'm sorry. Next up on superintendent's agenda is the WMHS Program of Studies.
I think we have to too.
We have David Robinson who's
Hey,
joining
Dave.
us via Zoom.
Yep, we
Evening,
hear you.
Dave.
There.
Can you
Well, I
hear
really know how to clear a room out, huh?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. You hear me?
We can. Thank you so much.
Could I just say one thing before we start the program of studies? And I want to make an important point to thank the social studies department too, because the project that those students just presented came out of the civics work, under the direction of Jay Pavey and Andy Moody and the social studies teachers who are teaching 11th grade American history. Students are doing all kinds of queries around civics problems that can be solved. And I think for us, this is one that there had been discussion about sort of in the air, and they zeroed right in on it. And it's really shown them, what they can do if they really think about the pros and the cons and try to work through those cons. I love how Anthony said that. You got to think about the cons because that's really what trips you up. So I just want to say thank you to them because it's been hugely useful for us.
It's impressive work.
Yeah, no, it really is. Yeah, they did a great job. Anyway, sorry, Dave.
I've been playing along from home a little bit. So that question about being unfair for maybe kids who have A block versus the. So the way our schedule works, it rotates, A, B, and C block all have a chance of being first block of the day,
totally forgot
2 days per cycle.
So it's only D
And then
block.
And then E, F, and G, exactly. E, F, and G all take turns being the last block of the day, twice each in a cycle. So D is the only one where, students not going to be.
So just for clarification, it wouldn't be the same 35 students
Yeah.
every single day. So,
Right.
and I think we could probably clarify exactly what those numbers are.
Yeah.
And when,
Yeah.
By the next
So if you-
meeting, we can have those numbers of who's eligible,
that'd be great.
absolutely. Yeah.
Thank
So
you
if you
for,
had a C block ASC, it could still be
Do it 2 days a week,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I totally forgot about that. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, me too, and I work under the schedule every day. It's something about being in this light, it's like a box with the lights, and we get very confused, so.
right, so the 1/7, I'm using 35 as 1/7 of the 250, right?
Right.
35 and
I mean,
change.
ish, yeah.
Right?
35
It's
and change.
35-ish.
That's a math term.
McLeod. So if it's 35-ish, and there's a rotation, we just need to kind of just be clear that it's what that rotation looks like and who has access and what it might mean.
Yeah.
So we can share more of that information. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So Dave, I'm gonna turn the first part over to you for the program of
Sounds
studies.
good. I know, I cannot believe, thanks for having me, by the way. Cannot believe it's that time of the year already that we're talking about program of studies for the 25-26 school year. And those of you who haven't really been informed of the process, I can just recap a little bit about the steps. Amy and I meet with all the department leaders in December, just to go over any kind of changes that they're proposing for new classes, any kind of procedures or course descriptions, things like that. And we get a draft going and we make those changes. And after that, we also look at some of the overall procedures just to see if that needs to be updated or we'd like to change anything. And so then we come up with a draft, which you have, I believe, been given a copy of. And there should be a one-pager that at least summarizes the key changes that have been made. So does everybody have that list somewhere? If not, I'm going to go over anyway, but just to kind of give you a sense. So once that happens, we are looking for your approval of that. And then assuming we do get the approval of the program of studies, our counselors will then meet with our students to just review the course selection process, but then go over some of these changes. And then the next week after that, the teachers meet with students in classes to go over their recommendations for the next year. So the English 10 teacher will talk about the recommendations for English 11, things like that. So, and then they would make those recommendations in Power School. And then after that, the students have some time to think about their electives they want, and then they'll meet with the counselors one-on-one over a 2-week span, and that kind of finalizes the request stage. So just to give people kind of a run through of the timeline, that's where we're at now. As far as
Excuse me,
this
David?
year's proposed, oh, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt the question.
With all the new courses, are there also ones that we're getting rid of this year? Are these new ones without removing any of the existing ones?
We don't have, there's maybe a couple, these are all new, and then I don't know if there's a couple that we ran last year that I think there wasn't enough demand, and so I think they've decided not to try it again, but I'll have to get back on the ones that were not running again. I think there's one in the social studies department that wasn't, but.
So I think one of the things that we're looking at too is numbers, right? So we wait to see when students sign up. We know some classes that didn't do that well with numbers this year. We usually hold on to them for a few years just to make sure that it doesn't change. Many of these that Dave is going to kind of point out here are sort of they're electives. So they're not necessarily taking numbers away from a core requirement. They're taking numbers away from another elective. So even though it's in the program of studies, it may not run, depending on how many kids sign up, what our staffing looks like, what schedules look like, etc. So I agree, Dave. I think we're watching philosophy that didn't really have. We wanted to get a few more kids in there. It looks like more kids are going to sign up next year, so we're leaving that in. And there was a couple other discussions, but I think most of them ended up at the end of the day leaving them in because our thinking is kind of like, why not? To see it, right? Because year to year, students' interests change. So If there's a class that repeatedly doesn't get any interest, then that's when we really start removing, which we did a few years ago. We took a quick, clean sweep through the book, and we make quite a few cuts at that point.
I think that's a good clarification. So it's almost like there's a larger selection of classes and not all of them will happen.
Correct.
If it turns out the interest for some of them is super low. So
Yep.
it gives you the opportunity to see which ones have a lot of interest and based on that run the ones that have the most interest versus just have a smaller list that in that list will happen.
Yeah, and as Dave said, students rank their choices for their electives and for some of these non-core classes, so that if that doesn't open, if the first one doesn't run, for example, they can work with their guidance counselor to see what their second and third choice is.
Thank you.
I know the department's done a great job of kind of surveying students ahead of time before they make these recommendations to add. So I know a couple departments listed, maybe 6 choices, and the 2 that they're going forward have got the most votes, kind of thing. So I think there's already been kind of that first screening of what the interests are of our students. That was really helpful, I think, too. So on that chart, I'm not going to read through the course description of all of these. The program of studies has the detailed description, but just in case someone's listening at home or anything, just to go over the titles to get a sense. There are a few departments that aren't adding, but looking at those, I know they've been the departments that have added in the past year or two. So overall, I think a lot of the departments, most have added some type of class. And again, as Amy said, their electives, a lot of them are half year. That way students can pick 2. It can help fit things in their schedule. A lot of times students have, 1 semester open. So it basically lets them choose more classes to take, and it's better for scheduling their complete schedules. But so for performing arts, just to go through a couple here, the courses to be added are music in media and society and history of modern music. In the science, tech, engineering, genetics, microbiology. That was kind of a 1-year course, and so we're breaking it up into 2 different semesters. That way, if a student is interested in a particular part of that, they don't have to take the full year. They can pick some other elective to match up on that. And then a couple of new ones, forensic science and intro to game design. So again, I think that department asked for feedback from students, and those were the most popular requests to add. In the social studies department, they're adding a few new electives: American Civil War battles and generals, criminal law, forensic psychology, and history of LGBTQ+ in the U.S. So those are some we're going to add. And obviously, like we just mentioned, we're going to offer these all out and then see what the demand is or the request numbers are. Departments will be able to kind of make the decision moving forward of which ones to run for next year. And then the health department, a new course called Building Healthy Habits is going to be offered as an alternative, not alternative, but as one of their wellness requirements that each student has each year. That's going to be a sophomore class that they're going to add in that they could take in place of the wellness. So those are a lot of electives, and I think each year we've kind of made a goal of increasing the number of electives that the school's offered. And I think if we look back at a program of studies, 5 or 6 years ago versus now, I think you'd see a lot of 1 semester electives that weren't there before. So I think we're right on target with, our goal of doing that. Any questions about the courses or the process? Yeah.
The only other one, Dave, is just the special ed, the renaming.
Yeah, I was going to do that after. Sorry, I was just going over the courses, but
That's
yeah.
okay.
So in the special ed department, while we're here,
Yeah.
the renaming of our alternative program, we call it PAL right now, Program for Alternative Learning, and the suggestion to rename it to the TLC program, which would be Therapeutic Learning Center, and the goal of reason to do that to be more consistent with the name of the program from the middle school, kind of like a through line, which has more of a therapeutic approach and not so much an alternative type of program. Nothing would change structurally or how the program runs. It's just that the renaming is the recommendation from the special ed.
Melissa?
So someone else had a question.
I did, yeah. So I know that the science curriculum review is happening, and my understanding was there's going to be a new science, technology, and engineering pathway at the high school as well. Is this wrapped into that, or is that something separate from the program of studies?
So that is something that they are still working on. So these electives and the courses that we're offering now will be wrapped into that, but it's not necessarily spelled out through these courses as a whole, if that makes sense. So the work's not separate, it's just not delineated yet in those ways, but these help us get there.
Okay, and my
As do some of
understanding
the other
was that
classes.
health and wellness was doing the business classes. Is that still within the math category, or is that being moved over into health and wellness?
Health and wellness is doing what?
The business classes, like the childcare classes and the.
Yeah, so they're still doing the child care classes.
Right.
The business classes would
Not
be
the
under
business
math.
classes,
Under the
no.
math, okay.
Yeah.
That was my misunderstanding. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no, it's still in the same place in the handbook. That hasn't changed in the program of studies at all.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Question for Dr. Lyons. Are we going to get an update before we lose our seniors at the end of the year on the internship? I'd love to hear how that experience is going for them.
Yeah.
Certainly do that, yep.
Do you want me to jump in on that?
Yeah, do you want me to talk about dual enrollment first, or do you want to talk about internship?
Sure, why don't you do enrollment, and I'll
Okay.
jump in with the internship.
So we also outlined a few things that we're adding in to sort of codify in the program of studies. One of them is trying to expand our dual enrollment program a little bit. Right now, we've had a very successful venture in world language with dual enrollment Spanish and dual enrollment Latin. And so we are now working with North Shore Community College to look at possible offerings of dual enrollment, a dual enrollment comp class that we could offer for students, a semester comp class, and a dual enrollment, possibly a dual enrollment social studies class, maybe psychology. So their timeline's a little different than our program of studies timeline, unfortunately. So we're still trying to hammer out some of the details with them. We can't officially offer it as a class unless we can commit to having 11 kids or so in it. But we just wanted to kind of give you a heads up that that's an area that's been successful for us in world languages that we've wanted to expand. We're very gung-ho about the comp piece because that's a requirement for all students, and where we see it might fit is psych, but again, that's something that we're still exploring at this time. You want to talk about internships?
Yeah, you jump on. So the internships, yes, I'm looking forward to being able to give you an update that at the end of the year. Right now in that stage, we've given out the application to students who are interested, and they have we get till February 14th, so they have 2 or 3 more weeks to finish that up, and at that point we'll know how many students went through the whole process to officially sign up. We have lots of interested students, but we want to make sure that that we can help ensure that they have a site and find out what that is, and kind of just do all that step there. So it'll be a fourth quarter, like we mentioned before, so it won't start until the fourth quarter starts, but I'm looking forward to having some type of update at the end of the year to see how it went. And then, so that's why it's also on this list. It's just that we want to actually put in a description paragraph of the program into the program of studies moving forward.
So I think the next two pieces, Dave and I can both talk about those a little bit. But one of the things that we've done with ILT this year is really try to take some time to talk about ensuring that students have the flexibility to be able to choose the classes that they want to choose, but that also that they're placed in classes that are appropriate fits for them, so that they're stretching appropriately, and that they're challenged appropriately, and that they're not either getting in way over their heads, or that they're getting into classes just so that they can, have an easy senior year, or just an example, again, speaking of a mother of a senior. And so I think that the two pieces that we really talked about is the course override procedure. Was that really as tight as we wanted it to be, and did it make sense with our timelines? Because I don't think we revisited it recently. And then also thinking about instruction at various levels, because I think, Melissa, you were part of the 8th grade parents that came in. I think one of the questions we get, like, what's the difference, right? What's the difference between a college class, an honors class, an AP class? And I think sometimes we have a hard time answering that. I think sometimes teachers will say, well, rigor, right? And I like that word rigor is one of my least favorite words in education because I don't know necessarily what that means, right? And I think teachers do. I think we know what it means internally, but trying to sort of share that with families and get an understanding. So the curriculum coordinators, as part of the ILT, and then guidance with the level changes, we kind of looked at those two pieces of the handbook and just tried to really clear up for families so that when they see that, and then when teachers are talking to students to say, okay, if you're thinking about taking science at the honors level this year, this is what you should be expecting day to day. These are the kind of outcomes that we'd like to see. These are the kind of benchmarks that we'll be looking at, right? Whether it's prior grades, whether it's, looking at assessments, benchmark assessments. That's especially true in mathematics. Just so that we can be sure and students can be sure that the stretch that they're taking or the classes that they're choosing are right matched. And then there is some flexibility around that. If parents want to say, well, maybe no, that's why we talked about the override procedure. But really making sure that parents understand and students understand, if you want to override the recommendation of teachers and guidance counselors, you are locked into that class for a little bit. And you can't, go in for 3 weeks and be like, oh, you were right, it's really hard, I gotta go, right? Or flip side, you go too low and then, you're kind of bored and disengaged and want to go up. It's very difficult for teachers to make those flexible changes throughout the semester and have consistent teaching. So I think those two things we kind of work together, again, to have flexibility, but to have some parameters around that. So that's spelled out a little bit differently.
And lastly, the competency.
Oh, the fun one.
Yeah.
So you have a document around competency determination. So there's been lots of conversation since the vote happened around eliminating MCAS as a graduation requirement. At the high school, as you know, we are not eliminating MCAS. As the state tasks us, we'll still be offering the MCAS to all students with the expectation that students are taking that as benchmarks for us. They're important benchmarks. We're hoping that parents are going to understand the importance of those benchmarks. Now with the high pressure situation taken off of it, it allows us to understand where we are in relativity year to year, and also in relation to schools around us, schools in our cohort, et cetera. Luckily for us, we are a mass core school already, which means we have a number of courses in place for graduation requirements that are outlined by the state. Not all high schools in Massachusetts have that. So luckily for us, it makes it easy for us to look at what students are doing in 9th and 10th grade and create a competency determination based on those. So this is a very long document that just kind of outlines the language so that you understood kind of where this fits and where our current graduation requirements sit. And basically what we're proposing, instead of passing the MCAS number 1 on our graduation requirements there, we are proposing that students successfully complete English 9 and 10, and they also successfully complete Algebra 1 and Geometry, and they also successfully complete what they would complete their freshman year in MCAS, which right now is biology, but we left that open in case the order of science changes down the road or the order of course offerings changes, so they would have to pass at least one bio, chem, physics, or tech engineering. We also leave the option to substitute those courses under my discretion if a student transfers in from another school. We have had situations in the past where kids transfer in from another school. They haven't taken MCAS, so we have to make them sit for MCAS as a junior. If a student transfers in from a private school, they may have taken geometry and algebra 2. They may not have had algebra 1. That's okay. We can give them competency determination if we decide that the standards of those courses, it's really 5 courses outlined here, are matched by the transcripts that they come in with. Alternatively, as a third option, if you want another one, if students do pass the MCAS, we can still give them competency determination on the MCAS. What that would do is if we had a student who tests very well, but maybe struggles and is trying to sort of get their credits in different ways, we could allow them, and again, a transfer student, if they came from another school district that is still giving MCAS and has a passing score, they wouldn't have to go and say repeat geometry if they had a math 1, 2, 3 sequence, for example. So it's just trying to create opportunities for students based on the standards outlined in those courses to ensure that they've met competency that way. So what we're proposing is the language change around that. and be replaced in the handbook.
I was just curious how we would be defining passing for MCAS. I know that the state changes that from year to year. Are we going to be changing that from year to year? Will the state still be changing that from year to
I'm
year?
not sure I heard your question. Could you repeat
How
it,
we
please?
define passing.
Proficiency.
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 Okay.
And that number does change. I don't know if the state will continue to change that number. It's anyone's
The
guess.
state kind of holds that based from year to year.
Okay.
And so they kind of change their thresholds based on kind of the data metrics that they create annually.
Will they'll still be doing that even though it's no longer a requirement?
My sense is that they are still going to be doing
Absolutely.
Okay.
that. They're also kind of working, as I've seen online, the department's working on what they say are possible new kind of competency determination in place of, but that is likely not going to be in place until next year.
Okay.
So in the interim, I want to say, just for background, for anyone that might be watching and the committee, Principal McLeod has done this very thoughtfully. There's a number of different ways to get the competency determination completed. She also collaborated with the Middlesex League principals. I've collaborated with the Middlesex League superintendent, so I feel like in terms of doing due diligence and really looking at this a number of different ways and talking about it with a number of teacher leaders, I feel like we're very much in the space where we need to be, and I think you've done a really nice job with this information, so thank you so much.
Of course.
Amy, just in terms of, so that's coursework requirement.
Can you say that again? I just was coughing and I didn't hear you. In terms of what? I know, it's that time of year.
So the coursework requirement, like what you just listed, is they need to successfully complete those classes. In addition to that, they still need to meet their credit requirements.
Absolutely.
In terms
This is just competency determination.
Right.
So this isn't
So-
graduation requirements. There's
Yeah.
two different things. So competency determination essentially means, right, because MCAS wasn't the only graduation
Yes.
requirement.
Yep.
It's replacing this idea that all schools are going to get students to at least a level of competency as determined by fill it in.
Yep.
It was, first it was course alignment when we were doing standards work, when was that? It feels like a million years ago, 10, 15, whatever years ago. Then they started talking about MCAS as the determinant to replace, remember we used to have local kind of graduation, so that was the competency determination. So now the state is saying, well, what's your competency determination? And I think that as long as our courses, and they are, and we know that because Kara and the curriculum coordinators have done excellent work aligning our courses, since they are aligned with those standards that the MCAS is testing, we can say, knowing that students go through that sequence of courses, they have met that competency determination. And then they can go on to finish their graduation requirements, which is why, if you look on page, I can't see with the glare, on page 23, it has the subject, the years,
Yeah.
all of those things, and
Yep.
now the local requirements for competency determination are at the bottom.
Great.
Because those are understood. Like, we understand that our students are going to be able to do that through one of the three ways that I just laid out.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Melissa?
Just another quick question, because I was at that 8th grade parent night. Would the integrated algebra, geometry, and physics class count towards that competency?
It
Okay.
does. Yep.
Is that something?
Because they're aligned with the standards of both Algebra 1, geometry, and physics. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. It's a good catch.
Any other questions? Thank you for this. I appreciate sort of the multiple pathways and having to sort of realign it fairly quickly after the vote that we took as a state, back in November. But it seems like it's been a thoughtful sort of process, and so it's very much appreciated.
Sure. Thanks. Great. Anything else to program students?
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Amy. Niask?
Where do you think you're going?
Hi, how you doing tonight?
Should have gotten you a
I'm
cup of
gonna
your
go
share.
road show. I know. I'll give you a very quick, I forgot about me. Sorry, I'm so well prepared except for NIASC. No, I'm very prepared. The NIASC visit went, I think, extremely well. We had a terrific team, several of whom had visited the school for the collaborative conference 2 years ago. We had a great organizing team at the high school. Dave Robinson was one of them. Erin Manzi, Diana Ho were our sort of our leads on getting us through the NEASC process. They came and visited. I think they went into every single teacher's classroom. They met with students. Our students presented work to them. Our two boys with the suits, they presented to NEASC as well as many other students in many content areas. So we had sort of gallery walks in the library where students were presenting work. They had small group conversations with teachers. They had small group conversations with students. They had tours. They met with some of you. They met with central administration. Basically anybody they could meet with and talk to, they did. And then they presented to the faculty on Wednesday afternoon before they left. And I think there were several highlights. Of course, number one, they're very excited about the new building coming online. The preview is that they will not give us full accreditation in that standard until the building is built and we have moved in, which we expected. But they are pleased with the progress. They were very pleased with the educational plan that went into the building, and they're really excited to support us in that work. In the meantime, I think that some of the biggest takeaways were they were thrilled with the realignment of the curriculum. Kara and the curriculum coordinators and the department coordinators have done excellent work with all the teachers getting our curriculum forward-facing, aligned across all content areas so it looks the same and has the same indicators in each curriculum. They were thrilled about that. And they also spent a lot of time talking about the energy and the feeling of community in the building. They got great feedback from students about having trusted adults in the building, about being known and valued and loved and cared for. And they really commended teachers, support staff, and every adult in the building to talk about the community of care that we're creating at the high school for students. So I think having them said that at the end, I don't know, I was kind of taken aback because you're always waiting for them to drop the hammer, right? Because they're NEASC, right? And
I was going to jump in real quick when
yeah.
you said that. I've been on plenty of visits and gone through it in other schools before. I've never heard a team make that much of an emphasis on that point there.
Yeah.
So it was kind of nice to see they're
it was
all passionate about those statements they made. So it was really nice to see.
Yep. And it really speaks to the level of work and the level of dedication that our teachers put in day to day, that our support staff puts in day to day, to really make the high school a collaborative learning community together. So they kind of ended on that note. I think everybody was sort of like, okay, great. So in terms of the next step, we'll wait for their report. I think we should be seeing something probably in the next couple months, hopefully in the next month, but we'll see. And then Doug and I will be able to review that report initially, and then close after that, it will become a public document. So I mean, I think for all the pain and suffering people talk about that the NEASC visit could be, it really wasn't. It was a pretty smooth visit, and I'm super proud of everybody's work. So.
That's great.
Any questions?
I'd just like to add, so as part of the process, Kara and I participated in the process as well. And in the debrief before they met with the entire faculty, they meet with the superintendents to talk about their visit and their takeaways. And I think Amy's spot on. I think that they talked at length about the love and care piece, right? That kids really feel like they belong here. They feel safe here. They feel like teachers genuinely care about them and have an interest in how they're doing and how well they're doing, but also their well-being, right? And so it really felt like we've made some really nice progress, and it was different than our other NEASC visits. So I look forward to the letter that they provide, but happy to answer any questions.
That's great.
Definitely, yeah. Mr. Mark?
Thank you. And Amy, just really a comment versus a question. This has been a long time in coming, and this has been meaning the results of the most recent visit. And really all the work that you and your team have done, really we owe a great deal of gratitude for that work. It hasn't been easy. It's been a bit of a lift, and certainly with some outstanding circumstances that are in many ways outside of your control or your capacity. And I think kudos to yourself, the administrative team, and to the entire staff, because we haven't made this type of progress in, say, 5-8 years without the community really rallying. So I think the leadership that has been shown across the building is really remarkable. So I was pleased to pass that along, but thank you, and obviously to the central administration as well. That this was not the type of feedback that we were hearing a handful of years ago, right? It was really just the opposite of that. Maybe not the entire opposite, but certainly it wasn't as a glowing a report or glowing progress as we've seen and heard now. So certainly thank you all.
I wanted to share, so I got to sit with NEASC, and what they sort of commented on was that sort of portrait of a graduate piece, and sort of within talking to educators in every classroom that they stepped into, and then talking to administration at various levels all the way up to central. And then going back and talking to students, what they were able to do was draw a thread between sort of the ethos and the vision, and seeing it play out sort of in classrooms and methods of teaching, in sort of results in students, in the student work that was presented. And I think that was the word that I heard from them, was cohesion. And that just, from an academic perspective, but also just from a cultural perspective, that it seemed like it was a very healthy, wholesome place, and that we were doing exactly what our intention was, which they said was just remarkable, that you didn't necessarily hit all of the boxes so cohesively as sort of this school did, this place did. And I think that just goes to everybody in the building, all the way, all the way top bottom. It is great. So clearly hard work, but I think it pays off. And it's nice to get that outside voice, somebody else that isn't around, sort of fresh eyes on it, and go, oh, we're not delusional. No, this is an amazing place, and it's obvious to other people. So thank you. Now you might be able to go.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, David.
See you later.
Based on Ed's comments and updates, I feel like we've covered everything. That's it for me this evening. Thank you so much.
That's great. Thanks, Evan.
And that's it for me this evening. And moving on down the agenda. Thank you for the time.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no,
it.
that was brilliant. Moving on to item number 8. I don't have much because you took middle school production update away from me, but that's okay. That was fantastic to see. One thing I just wanted to kind of comment on was I feel like there are people in our community that I've talked to very recently, about sort of some things that have been in the news with our change in sort of the federal level of our government, and I want to let people just to know that as a district, that we're the same place we were last week. We're the same place sort of where our students feel loved and cared for and held, and families feel loved and cared for and held, not just in an academic sense, but in a whole sense. And so that the students' trusted adults are still their trusted adults. Their team members are still there for them. Their peers are still there for them. And so whether that's yesterday, today, or tomorrow, we will continue to support students where they are as individuals, at any facet of what they need for support. And I think that's what our district stands for. And I think we'll continue to stand for that. So just if there was anyone that was sort of nervous about what the adults are doing in the space, they're all the same adults. They're all the ones that sort of care for you and are there to talk and be there if you need anything. So I just felt like I wanted to say that. And that was that. So Item number 9, subcommittee reports. Finance and facilities, Mr. Markham.
Thank you. We have not met since our last meeting, but our next meeting is this coming Friday morning. And just to put a couple of dates in people's thoughts, we'll be scheduling 2 subcommittee meetings between now and February 11. And on March 11, exactly a month later, will be the administration's presentation of the fiscal year 26 budget draft. So we've got a busy month, 5 weeks ahead of us, but we will be in a good stead. So we'll have a full report next meeting.
Thank you. Labor and personnel, Dr. Piscadlo.
Yeah, two quick updates. Labor and Personnel met last week. We interviewed 3 finalists for the clerk position. Probably a little naive to think that it was going to be an easy choice, because it's not thus far. So we had 3 really strong candidates, each with their own set of strengths. So we are going to deliberate a little bit more, and hopefully by our next meeting, we'll be able to kind of move forward. We appreciate the committee entrusting us with that process. So it's exciting, but I wish it wasn't so hard, but it is. Secondly, we are also meeting tomorrow. We are scheduled for our second negotiating meeting with the WEA Unit C. So looking forward to that. So continuing to kind of solidify ground rules and maybe start to exchange a couple of proposals back and forth. And we'll be meeting tomorrow at 5:30 in the Galvin.
Great. Student Services, Eileen, are you still with us?
I certainly am.
Do you-
We have not met as a subcommittee, but did have the community forum for the late start time on Thursday evening on the 16th. And I was not there in person, but I was there on the web, on the webinar. Dr. Lyons, is that going to be, is that recorded and was that sent out to the community?
Yes.
YouTube. It wasn't sent out in a separate notification, but
It's on-
Ian just
right.
shared it's on the website.
It's on the website.
YouTube. On YouTube.
Fantastic.
On
Okay.
WCAT.
Okay, great. So people can go back and watch it. I know that there were some people that submitted some questions ahead of time, which was some good conversation starters and discussion points, and some really great discussion points all around, really. And yeah, that's it for me.
Great. Yeah, no, having attended it, there was a good level of discussion. I thought the back and forth was constructive, so it was pretty great. Okay, thank you. Policy and communications.
So we met
Davis.
back on Friday the 17th. It was just Ms. Quinn and myself, but we did get to spend some time working through the progress she's made, working through many of the books. We'll have 2 that we'll have motions on tonight. We also reviewed the edits from CPAC for a proposed CPAC policy, which is looking really good, and we're going to discuss that in our next subcommittee meeting on the 27th, so hopefully we'll have one to lay on the table during our first meeting in February. We also worked on some edits, taking in the feedback for the field trip policy as well as the staff conduct policy. And I am working to find some time on Thursday with the union leaders that had sent some of the original feedback I got to hopefully just have a small meeting with myself and the members of the union to review the edits that we have and take in some additional feedback. And then the plan is to bring that feedback to the subcommittee on the 27th and continue to iterate on those 2 policies. I wanted to give Melissa a few seconds just to talk about book C and F.
So
Lay on the table.
we're going to lay on the table tonight policy book C, which is a policy book talking about general administration goals and procedures for the superintendent, and also section F, which is facilities and development, mostly MASC boilerplate that we've edited to reflect our district standards. And The big difference is in section F are basically updates to the retirement and namings of facilities. So be interesting. Just lay them on the table for the next 2 weeks. And if you guys have feedback, please reach out to me.
Great.
So I'll start with the motion for book C. Move that the school committee place policy book updated section C on the table for consideration until the February 11th, 2025 school committee meeting.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Ms. Colleran?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
You're good.
And the second one, move that the school committee place policy book updated section F on the table for consideration until the school committee meeting on February 11th, 2025.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? All right. And Ms. Colleran?
Yes, for me.
Nice. Thank you. Okay. Is that it from policy?
Yep, that's it from policy.
Oh,
No,
Mr. Markham?
Kind of an unrelated question regarding 9D. But earlier tonight, Stephen, you had asked for the consensus or even a motion to lay on the table the senior privilege point.
Yes.
Would that be appropriate that we include that here, or is the need for that sort of passed, or just if there was an expectation around that, this might be the time that we support that.
Yeah, let's make a motion for it.
You did ask for public comment or parents to contribute their thoughts.
Yeah, I would like some feedback on it.
Okay. Move to place on the table the Wakefield Memorial High School Senior ASC leave privileges 2024-2025 until the next school committee meeting on February 11th, 2025.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Thank you, Tom. Those in favor? All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Eileen. All right. Any liaison reports?
So I have a quick one. The Youth Council is sponsoring a Give Warmth for Winter Care donation drive. They're collecting hats and gloves and socks from January 20th through February 7th with donation drop-offs at Galvin and the high school, the McCarthy Senior Center, and Town Hall. And the project will culminate with an all-ages community event the morning of Saturday, February 8th. So mark your calendars and come to the Americal on February 8th.
Great.
Okay. I just have a CPAC update for liaison. The next CPAC meeting will be on February 3rd, and encourage everyone to go, and they're always looking for volunteers. So if anyone's looking to volunteer, come join CPAC.
Thank you, Eileen.
And the Human Rights Commission is meeting at the exact same time as our meeting this evening, so I wasn't able to attend that meeting. But yesterday they had a very beautiful ceremony for MLK Junior Day and Coretta Scott King Day at the Galvin. I also want to thank the DPW. They did an amazing job clearing out the school parking lot and the sidewalks to make it extremely safe for people to attend. They had a very beautiful choir group, I think that came from all over the state. Our state rep, Kate Lipper-Garabedian, was present, as well as our state senator, Jason Lewis, and they honored Officer Amy Rando for her service, which was very nice.
Great. Yeah, also, thank you to Tim for also putting together all of the group. Steve Mayer reached out and just said that he was very impressed with Tim's group, sort of helping clean up the school and have it ready for the event.
Yeah, sorry, when I said the DPW,
Well, no, they work hand in hand. Yeah. So good partnership there. So that was fantastic. And I think also HRC is working on, Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong, on February 8th, when they collect those resources, they're looking for available volunteers to help sort and put together care packages. And I think that's jointly between Youth Council and
I believe that it is,
and
yeah.
HRC.
It's in the Heritage Room at the Americal on February 8th,
February
if I
8th,
recall.
yeah.
And then there were some students that performed. The Dolbear, I forget what grades they were. Do you
They were all grades.
Okay, all grades from the Dolbear came to sing, which was cute. And then there was some really nice digital art done by high school students. And there was a big first grade Dolbear, I want to call it a banner, but I don't know what it was. but-
Mural.
Mural.
Sorts, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Is it Megan? Is it Meg Giotti? Who's the art teacher?
Morgan.
Morgan
Giannotti.
Giannotti. So she worked with high school seniors to put together sort of some digital art for the MLK Remembrance. So I think that's what you were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. No, great work. Awesome. All right. Future dates and agenda items. Anybody have any future agenda items?
So I expect we'll have some motions at the next meeting from policy, so I'll make sure I get those to you before the packet and agenda goes out on the 11th. Hopefully we'll have the CPAC policy I mentioned. We may or may not have some more book policies.
We should have some more book policies.
I don't yet know whether we'll have a revised field trip policy and/or staff conduct policy. Depends on the feedback I get on Thursday with the edits we've made and the follow-up meeting that we'll have on the 27th.
Okay. Very good. All right. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, February 11th. Same bad time. And with that, are there any school committee comments?
I just want to commend Amy and the whole high school team for coming up with a competency determination policy so quickly.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty quick turnaround, and I'm really proud of them for pulling together something so cohesive.
Yeah. That was impressive. Yeah. All right. Seeing that-
I just wanted to say something too. I just wanted to say that, last week we lost a beloved student at our Galvin Middle School, and my heart and sympathy just goes out to the Ellis family. And I hope everyone knows what a wonderful job the Galvin Middle School did for the kids in the community. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you, Eileen.
Okay. I believe we have a motion for adjournment.
Move that the school committee adjourn its meeting of Tuesday, January 21st, 2025.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Eileen, you okay if we leave?
Yes.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. Have a good evening.
Good night, Wakefield.